Hey, what's up, guys? I wanted to share this video on pretty much the Google Sheet that I set up as my own system for my bookkeeping business. And it doesn't seem like you see too many videos on how people structure the way they keep things organized. So I figured this would be a useful video to just share where I'm at. I've ran my bookkeeping business for a year and a half now, and this is pretty much what I have so far. So I'll just jump right in it. This tab here, so I have separate tabs at the bottom, and I separate it by each month. And then I have one cleanups tab, and then I have this summary tab that I'm on right now. And this just gives me a overview of all my clients and where they stand as of today. So you'll see the list of clients on the left, and then I have the monthly rate that I charge them, and I have the total, so I at least have a quick glance what I should be receiving on a monthly basis. I added a column for Google reviews, so if I do a big cleanup or if I've been working with a client for a few months, I'll reach out to them and just ask if they would leave me a review. The 2025 complete is just a check mark just so that I know their last year's books are complete. And so if I'm doing like a big cleanup as well and I have to go back in previous years, I at least know that they're caught up through last year. And then same idea, I have like a end of year journal entry with the CPA that they use. So if there's any changes that need to be made to the books from last year, so after you close in December, everything gets filed, then I'd like to get like some sort of journal entry from whoever they're using to file, and then I can make sure the books are accurate that way. So a lot of times it's like depreciation and stuff like that where they make decisions based off the information that I provide, and then I can make those corrections. I have another tab or a column for when I initially onboard the client, and then my idea is every 12 months I'm going to reevaluate their books and most likely just do like a price increase. So I just set the date on when I need to at least bump them up 5, 10, 15%, or maybe even more if they really were growing consistently over the year and it's just taking more of my time. And then you'll see the rest is just the months, and it shows me just as a quick glance who is caught up. So I'm in August right now, and so I'm able to see how many clients I need to close out still from last month. There's still a few that have some in June, and then it's easy for me to go back and see who is not keeping up with their documents and who is kind of struggling to keep up with questions and stuff like that. So this is just a good brief overview of everything that's happening in my company. And then at the bottom here, I just started it in May, but I'm tracking the time. So I have like a little app, and each time I work on a client, I just clock the hours. And this helps me with pretty much determining how much I should be charging each client, and gives me a better idea if I'm doing cleanups. I can kind of go back and reference how long it took me to do a specific cleanup project for somebody, and then if I come across someone new, I have a better idea of what I should be charging them to get them caught up. So that is a new thing that I'm doing. So this is the summary tab, and then I'll just go to the monthly tab here, and these are the new I guess this is what I've learned over the course of the year and a half. There were certain things that I wanted to know as I was going through clients. So if I just jump to the summary again, like if I have a client who I have to get caught up from February, that's a long time for me to really remember why I have not closed out that month. It could be they didn't provide me documents, or they haven't answered all the questions yet. But if I am doing that, I want to know from this screen, I want to know, am I missing statements? Am I waiting for questions? And if I haven't reconciled something, then I want to know why I'm not fully reconciled for that month. So this is my idea behind all of this. So I have each client that has their own tab here. So I made like a little collapsed view on the left here, and each client has their own row. And so when I click on this, it'll open up the first client. Now, initially, throughout the month, I'm going through each client once per week. And I want to keep track of who I've actually worked on for that week. So right now, like, you can see a lot of them are in like week 2. And for this example, like client 1, I haven't done anything, so I haven't started. So now I can see when I come in here, okay, I need to work on them. And as soon as I work on the first week, it pops up as week 1 is completed. Just an easy way for me to see what's going on. And then when I finish that first week, I'll just collapse that, and then I'll go to the second client, and so on. So this is, I really like this setup up here. So now if I work through the whole 4 weeks, you can kind of see how the colors are changing. It kind of jumps out to see who's behind, or if I've worked on somebody over another client. So if I get through week 4, then I'm ready to do like a month-end close. Right now, in my weekly setup, I'm checking off the weeks, and then I share a spreadsheet with every single client. So everybody has their own spreadsheet. I keep it in their own collapsed file here. And then when they answer questions, everything gets saved into this spreadsheet. So I can quickly just jump in here. And this is how I set it up for my clients. So whenever I have open questions, I will copy and paste them from QuickBooks into here, so it'll show the date, description, and then how much they either spent or received. Sometimes I'll have the vendor already, but if I don't, I ask my client to add the vendor to let me know what it's for. And then if they're working in like real estate, I want to know what property it is. And then if they have any additional notes they want to add, they have this section here. And then I have my own section where I will add my own notes. Sometimes I'll have another tab for them if they would like to be proactive. So I do have some clients who do a lot of invoicing, and instead of me just asking them which invoice to match it to in QuickBooks, they will have their own tab, and they'll just give me that information before I even work on their stuff. So that's been a pretty good system for them. It makes my job much easier. But that is how I do the spreadsheets for them. The month-end close, I then list all the accounts. So checking accounts, credit cards, loans, anything like that where I need to gather the statements and what I need to reconcile. The other struggle I was having for a while was if I did have a client who was open, like maybe for last month, when I jump into that previous month to look at what I'm waiting for, there was usually a situation where I would be maybe only missing one statement. So if I come in here at the end of the month, I ask my client to provide me the documents, and maybe I only received one. I wanted to make this checklist specifically for statements. That way, when I come back in the next week or whatever, I'm trying to figure out why it's not closed out for the month. I could quickly see that my client hasn't sent me the document for like a truck loan that I still need to gather, so then I can get it in the books and then close out that month. So the second part of that is some of my clients give me read-only access to their banks, and there was another issue where I was trying to remember which ones I could log in and just get myself and which ones I needed to ask for. So I just put like a small detail in like a bracket that just says ask, or I'll put download next to that checking account or the loan statement, whatever it is that I need. That way, when I'm going through this, I know that I either need to ask them or I could just quickly go into the website and just download it myself. The other part of this is if I have the actual login info, and I'll kind of go through the notes a little bit more, but I'll have the login just right here. So whatever they use, I'm putting that website right into this section, and that way I could just quickly jump to that website. And then if I needed the extra detail, I add the note so I can have the username and password that I set up for the read-only access. And so now I have all the information that I need right inside of this collapse file for this client. Now, if I get through the statements and I uploaded them into the Google Drive for that specific client, I'll go ahead and start reconciling things. So now, pretty much the same concept. If I am reconciling things and maybe I did get this one statement and I reconciled it, I want to know that I did at least one piece of it. And if I'm just waiting on this loan statement, then obviously I haven't reconciled it yet. So I want to know this information. Now, if I close out the statements, I have this extra box here for the accounts that are closed. And if I scroll up here now, you could see the statements underneath this first client is showing closed. That way, when I come back in and log into this spreadsheet, I know for sure that this client, I got all the statements and it's ready to go. The second struggle I was having was I would see the statements here, so there's really no reason why I wouldn't have everything reconciled if I already had the documents. So now I have this questions column that I created just for this month because I wanted to add this piece of information that I can quickly look at to understand who I'm waiting for specific questions, instead of having to actually go into the spreadsheet each time and see if they've answered my questions. I just want to know if they actually are caught up for the previous month. So I made this extra box as well, and if they did answer all the questions, I'm going to mark that as complete. So now I know that questions are answered up through whatever month I'm trying to close out. I have all the statements now, and once I reconcile it, now I can close out the reconciled section. And then the last piece here is I want to make sure that I know I sent them their financial reports. I certainly don't want to forget that piece. My clients always get a financial report sometime within that month from the previous month, as long as everything's caught up. And if I haven't sent it, I want to know that I didn't. So that's just a way to double check for myself. That way, when I send out the email, I'm going to check that box. And then the last piece is to actually close out the month. And this is the part where it gets transferred over to my summary page. So when this client is actually finished, I'm going to close out that month. When I come to the summary, it'll show in August that they are closed. So that's my weekly and monthly check-in for every client. Now, I have this note section that I started to develop because every client is different, and there's always information that I need to know, especially when it gets really complicated. So my thing is I like to have a quick note. So I have a monthly notes where if I really just need to jot down a quick note about maybe a conversation or an email that they sent me, I'm just going to put that in there just so that when I do like the weekly categorization, I can just look at the note, see if that I could just finish that quick task, and then I'm done with that. I also set up the SOP, and this is a new part that I'm adding to all of my clients because there are really certain situations where if I need to do a specific task, if let's say they use Stripe, and I need to make sure that I gather all the information in Stripe and I separate the fees, then I want to know how I do it every time. That way I don't have to remember what that setup is like. Especially for clients who have different sort of CRMs for their business specifically. Like I have one guy who does pest control, and he uses Gorilla Desk as his CRM. So I want to know in this SOP section what kind of CRM he's using. Is he using it to create invoices? I want to know if it's integrated in QuickBooks. I want to know, do I need to match them each time? And do I need to separate fees, or if the fees are included? All this extra information, I don't want to have to remember all of it. So I'm going to put basically step-by-step processes into this SOP section. So most likely what I'm going to develop is I'm going to have the written SOP, and then I'm going to have separate sections. So either it's going to be specific for a task, or I'm going to set up videos to watch. And I'll show you an example of this. So if it's a more complicated client, I'm going to split it out. So maybe it's reconciling child accounts for certain credit cards. Like I have somebody who has a parent account, and they have 8 to 10 employees who have their own credit card for fuel or just to buy materials. So that whole process of reconciling is kind of complicated. And so I'm putting all the notes right in here so that I know exactly how to do it every single time I close out that client. And then if I want to just show a video, then I'm just going to create a video and then I'm just going to drop it right in this section, and then I'll label it whatever it is that I need to get done. So I think that for the most part, I'm going to set up videos, which will make it easier. And that way, if I ever want to hand off anything, if I need to hire somebody as I grow, then everything's going to be just put right in this section. The other part I showed, the login info, that makes it a lot easier. And then I'm putting the client's information in case I ever need it. That way I know, how to contact them if I ever lose their information for whatever reason. But those are like the main things that I wanted right inside the collapse file for every single client. So I have like the dashboard up top. That way I can see this client is done for the month. I can see from the broader view that they're closed out. And I could see the production of, every single client. So really the whole point of this is to kind of get everything out of my head, and everything can just be stashed into this Google Sheet to where everything's kind of laid out in front of me, and then I could just go through the checklist myself. So I think that pretty much covers all of it. I don't know if I made this more complicated than it needed to be, but from my experience so far, all the struggles that I had trying to keep up with things as far as remembering what I need, this is the best layout that I've come up with. And I think as soon as I start to build this up a little bit more, it's going to look a little bit different. But it seems to be a pretty easy way for me to look at things and really see what is being done. And then, I actually made this extra little checkbox. So if everybody is complete for August, I check this box and I can even see that month is complete. So hopefully that was helpful. I do have like extra setups in here too. I'll put in like the chart of accounts. Actually, this has been very helpful for me as I have been setting up like different businesses, and everyone kind of gets more complicated, it seems, as I go along. And I'm creating kind of like a template for the actual chart of accounts. That way, this is just another piece I don't have to think about when I'm setting things up. I could just quickly come in here and reference what I've already done for other clients, and that way every single client is pretty much set up the same way, especially if they're the same industry. It just makes my job so much more efficient. And then one big piece of advice I got from somebody was, when I'm doing the marketing, if people reach out to me as a potential client, whether it's on Facebook or LinkedIn, I'm putting their name in there. I'm putting the date that they reached out to me, and then I'm going to have a follow-up date, plus any kind of notes that I took for that client, so that it's all in here as well. So that way, if I do follow up, I could go in there, see what date, I actually talk to them, and then if they want to have a further discussion, I have all the notes that I already have set up within that tab. Because obviously, once you go through like 10 or 20 different conversations on a monthly basis, you're not going to remember exactly what that client needed. So just one piece of advice that I got from another business owner, just keep track of those things, put their name, add their phone number if you got their number, and put any kind of notes that you can. And I even go as far as putting it in an email, and then I have a separate folder for potential clients. That way, I even have more notes in there. And if they ever send me documents in an email, it's all saved. And then if they reach out to me like 6 months later, I still have all that information. So, anyways, if you guys have any questions, or if you have something similar set up, or if you have other ideas you want to share, I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on it. And I'll leave all my socials in the description. If you want to check out my website for my business, you're welcome to do so. But other than that, I appreciate you guys taking the time to watch, and I'll see you in the next video.